Okay, welcome back to the T podcast. Here we are in Austin, Texas, To the T Plumbing, Heating, and Air of Austin. I'm Lane Williams. I'm here with James Salinas. James, really, I want to talk about tariffs today. Not necessarily what tariffs have done in the last 3 to 6 months, but what we can expect in the next 3 to 6 months, as well as moving forward. So specifically, how have recent tariffs impacted the HVAC and plumbing industry?
So recently, tariffs are affecting everything across the board, of course, but specifically in the HVAC plumbing industry, really as of right now, the initial tariff we had come through was about in March is when most manufacturers sent our price increase through, which was anywhere from 3 to about 8%, depending on the manufacturer. Really, as the ongoing effect goes, it's kind of just playing it by ear with our manufacturers. Of course, they're doing everything they can to keep our cost as low as possible. But at the end of the day, when we're having a tariff that goes across the board, it's across the board. Really, as the ongoing effects of it, the last one we had was in March. As of right now, there's nothing on the board, or at least no emails I'm getting. Any of our sales reps we've talked to, there's nothing coming as of now. But things change quickly when it comes to this tariff stuff.
You mean as far as another increase?
Yeah, as far as another increase, we got hit in March with that one from 3 to 8%, and that was really it. I haven't heard anything about anything coming more than that as of now.
Is that direct? Is it one-to-one? So let's say an HVAC or a plumbing company gets a 3% increase. Do the customers then see a 3% increase, or is it a 1%, or is it a 5%? Like, how does that work?
It really varies. So it just depends on the good, right? So now, at the end of the day, if it's a 3%, I'm not about to rework my entire price book over 3%.
Correct.
Typically, I like to work my price book about once a year, and that's in the beginning of the year when we get our traditional price increase on January 1st to February 1st. If it's 3%, I'm personally not worried about it. So my costs are still going to be the same.
Okay.
And then we'll just keep moving forward. Now, if I get a large one, like if it's that 9%, 8%, that's the one I really have to reconsider. Right. But 3% is marginal at the end of the day, with how I have things built for us.
And do your manufacturers, whenever that they put an increase, is it across the board or is it on specific equipment?
It's typically across the board on all equipment that that manufacturer sells.
Okay. And now I know that we just switched refrigerants at January the 1st, right? There's a new refrigerant that came out. So we've got that refrigerant and we've got the tariffs. How much of an increase have you seen this year just in HVAC?
So on the new refrigerant specifically, when the tariff hit, we got a $4 increase per pound. So that was a pretty substantial increase.
What percentage does that make up? Is probably 20% or 15%? What would
probably
that be?
In that 30 to 40% margin.
Okay.
That refrigerant's expensive.
Okay.
Especially to us. Right now, we're even limited. That refrigerant's on a limited basis right now. So where we used to be able to buy a bottle a week.
Okay.
Now we're limited to a bottle a month.
And that's every
across the board.
Like whatever your license is, your license is allowed
typically per manufacturer. Now, some manufacturers don't even have said refrigerant available. So then you have to go to a different manufacturer to get it.
Okay.
Across the board, it's a very, very hard time when it comes to that 454B.
Okay. So how much of an increase then have we seen since January the 1st? If, let's say, December the 30th, you were going to buy a system versus today, what would you say is that specific percentage?
Again, it's going to come down to the manufacturer on the specifics, but we would probably say 7 to 10%.
Really?
Yeah.
So there's a 7 to 10% increase since then.
Yeah, because of course with our traditional price increase that we get, and then now with the tariff from the 3 to 8, you add those up. You're going to be in that 7 to 10 ballpark on most manufacturers.
Okay.
Now the big thing when it comes to that, especially for the homeowners at home, pricing is going to continue to go up. As crazy as this sounds, the sooner you buy, the more money you're going to save in the long run.
Right.
Just because, like, if you think back to COVID when we were talking about all those price increases we have from supply chains, from the raw material being shorted, and just not being able to actually get raw material to build up that equipment. We saw basically a price increase every quarter from 2020 to 23, whenever COVID officially ended. And the biggest thing that we saw was that we had all those price increases, but even though raw material came back and was in an abundance amount, we sticked with those increases.
So they didn't come down.
No. They kept it up. So we went up to X amount and we stayed at X amount. And now that we have these new tariffs coming in, our standard price increases that we get every year just because the cost of goods go up every year, we're going to just keep going up and up and up.
And when you say we, you don't mean to the T.
No,
you
it's
mean
just,
the manufacturers.
The manufacturers or just any HVAC or plumbing company. This is across the board. It's not specifically happening to the T. It's happening to the small shop. It's happening to the biggest shop in town. Right.
So just to be clear, it's not to the T that's not going to come back down on the prices, but the industry as a whole, when you look at after COVID, their price increases because of shortages and supply chain issues. Prices never came back down. So what you're saying is that's probably going to be the case here.
100%. Just based off past history.
Right.
But supply chain we've always had an issue with supply chain since COVID.
Right.
We never really bounced back. Prior to 2020, I could go basically present you any option in a book or on an iPad or however we're presenting that day, and you can pick the equipment you want, and I could get it. There was points at time during COVID that, hey, I have these two options ready, available, and this is it. So it's either A or B, and I need you to make a decision as quickly as possible because there's only two left.
Yeah, and B might not be there tomorrow.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I've done it to where, I had a sales presentation, they chose an item, and by the time I made it to my truck to order it, it was gone.
Right.
That quickly. But the biggest thing now too is we're still having supply chain issues. Each manufacturer has their own problems. To where we just can't get the good that we need. So it's like, even if I'm going to present something to you, I'm always trying to make sure it's available. Because the last thing I want to do is offer you a product that I can't get, or it's going to take 2 weeks to get. If you're hard down and it's 97 degrees outside, nobody wants to be hot for 2 weeks.
I mean, right now we're looking at an issue where we're waiting 4 to 6 weeks for a coil, right?
For a compressor.
For a compressor.
Yeah, and it's just it's a supply chain issue. It's coming from the factory. They said it's back ordered slightly, and but they gave me a prediction of 4 to 6 weeks.
Right.
I'm glad that this compressor is not a hard fail to where it's still giving some type of cooling to the homeowner.
Our customer is, and so talk to me a little bit about that. Like in that situation, I know that To The T has some portable units. What have y'all done in the past if there's someone that they can't get? I mean, nobody can get the compressor for 4 to 6 weeks. What are you going to do?
We give them options, really. So it's one of those things that, there's always a solution, but it's just, what's the narrative of that solution? Of course, we can offer portable units. Which typically, we try to limit to 1 or 2 per house just because, these portable units are not designed to cool your entire house to 75 degrees. They're designed to cool a specific space.
One room, 350 square feet, whatever.
Really. So, of course, we can give that limitation. It also depends on, the customer. Is this a system that we did? Is this a brand new customer? Of course, we're trying to leave a great impression.
Right.
We want to be there and take care of our customers.
So do you charge for those portable units?
Typically not. Now, every scenario is different to where, if we get a signed deal, we agree on something and we sign it and, the repair is going to take 3 weeks. I'll give you this portable, no charge to you.
Right.
But say you use my portable for 2.5 weeks and then you call me and say, hey, I have someone else to fix it. At that point, we're going to have to talk.
Like, bro, did we not?
I just took care of you for 2.5 weeks and you're going to do this to me.
Yeah.
So, of course, there's some stipulation, but at the end of the day, 99% of the time, we're not charging our customer $1 for a portable unit.
Right. Because we just want to make sure that they're comfortable. We want to make sure that they're taken care of, especially with older couples or children.
Yeah, we've done that a couple times in our scenarios to where, we couldn't make it out there quickly enough or we're waiting on a part. Hey, here's a portable unit. Y'all be as comfortable as you can.
Correct.
It's the best you can do. It's the best we can do for you until the part comes in.
So what things are HVAC and plumbing companies doing? What's their long-term strategies, and how are you guys adapting to the challenges of supply chain and to the increased prices? Like if prices are continuing to go up, how are you hedging or stockpiling? What are y'all doing?
It's coming down to just stockpiling. A lot of wear and tear parts that we carry, a price increase in them isn't going to affect us, too much. But when it comes to like that refrigerant, for example, R454B, we're trying to just get as much as we can so we have it available, because the last thing we want to do is, put a new system in and it not work because we don't have enough refrigerant.
We don't have refrigerant. Yeah.
So of course we have a number of those bottles ready to go. And it's just stockpiling that, because with the limitations to once per month, a 20-pound drum is only going to last you a little bit.
How many systems can you do with that?
Depending on, line
How
set
the
length
line
and
set,
things.
yeah.
But, on average, I'm probably going to shoot for like 5 to 8.
Okay.
Typically, it's going to come down to a couple of variables on the systems, but it's just always having that readily available and being able to take care of the customer. And by planning ahead and, stockpiling a couple bottles and using them and having them on the standby is just going to benefit us and benefit the customer.
Yeah, you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So that's the long-term strategy then. It's kind of hedging with those pricing, purchasing equipment and parts that break
And
a
of course,
lot.
building relationships with all of our manufacturers, just because we have so many different manufacturers and supply houses in town, that you develop a good relationship and, someone can make something happen for you if you know the right people.
Right. I got you. So what's the future looking like? I mean, whenever if you as an expert in your field, speaking of the relationships that you have with your manufacturers, with the distributors, what's the future looking like? Are we going to see more tariffs? Are we going to see these constant increases? Or do you think we're going to level out at some point?
The hope is to level out. Obviously the future is unplanned and unpromised.
Right.
But the hope is to level out and, definitely build a playing field that, we have a sustainable cost of everything and we have material and we have everything we need on a day-to-day basis. But with the supply chain issues we're having and we're going to continue to have, especially with the new change with the refrigerant, they had to change all their system designs, all the manufacturers did, and now it's just getting them out. And with all the guidelines that we have to follow, with the efficiency guidelines that are consistently changing, it just puts a lot on the manufacturers to produce enough to actually, get it in the field. And, we're going to definitely experience that over the next coming years as they establish this new refrigerant and we figure out our baseline for it.
And so when they change from one refrigerant to another refrigerant, now this is the approved refrigerant. You cannot sell a system from January the 1st that, unless you've already purchased that system, I guess if you had it in stock, you could sell it. But it's just like the R22. Right, R22 from back in the day, that stuff is so expensive now, but they can't force someone to change their system out, right?
No, we can't.
All you can do is refill it one time. Is that correct?
One time is following EPA guidelines. Really, with it being R410A, if you have a new system, you have nothing to worry about, and it's R410A. The refrigerant's not going anywhere. They are phasing it out. I believe the plan is to have it phased out by like 2037, if I'm not mistaken. It's like a 10-year plan.
Okay.
But people don't realize, it took over 20 years to phase out R22, and we still run across R22 today.
Right. We have systems. We've got bottles of it now.
Yeah, 100%. And it's just, you give the homeowner the option to decide on what they want to do. But it's going to be a process. All the manufacturers are still going to have your warranty parts for your R410A system. So you're okay. It's not this huge ordeal that you have an R410A system. Technically, you can still install R410A this year.
Okay.
But you can't find it. It's very rare to find. A lot of the smaller systems I can get my hands on, like 2 tons, 2.5 tons. But a lot of the bigger systems you just can't really find anymore. A lot of the bigger shops in town definitely bought up a lot that have the surplus space to stock up on it. So it's very hard to find now. But as far as parts go, we can still get those.
Yeah. And you'll be able to get those forever because, again, they can't.
Yeah. A lot of the parts are interchangeable. So it's like, you have a 9-year-old system that's a Train or a Carrier or a Lennox and your motor goes out. That motor is still being used on the newer stuff. It might be slightly different, but I can find you a universal. There's so many things I can do to get the system back up.
Capacitor, stuff like that.
Yeah, and it's like I have a buddy that runs his own company and he just swapped out an R22 coil. He gave the homeowner an option. He ended up finding the R22 coil. The homeowner was like, yeah, let's do it. Right. And they got it done. And that's something that's been phased out for 20 plus years at this point.
Yeah. So, as far as minimizing the impact, right? If a homeowner what can they do to minimize the impact of the tariffs? I mean, what would you suggest? Like, don't limp it along. Like, if you think that you need to change the system, go ahead and do it as soon as possible. Or
So it's one of those things that it's going to come down to the homeowner, of course. You know, it's their house, their rules. If you have newer equipment, just take care of it. You know, I go to too many houses that are 8, 9 years old that has never had a maintenance done.
right,
You know, find a company, find us, let us take care of that system. You know, twice a year we come out, we check the cooling, check the heating, just make sure that system is running up to par. If you have an older system, it may be in your best interest just to rip that Band-Aid off. No one wants to do it. It's never the right time to do it. It's just, when do I want to just stop doing that? I call it digging the hole. It's like having an old car. You put a little bit of money, 6 months goes by. A little bit more money, 3 months goes by. A little bit more money. You end up putting 3, 4, 5 grand in that car. And what do you end up doing with that car? Selling it to the neighbor's kid for $2,500 bucks,
right.
and you end up at the dealership with a brand new car.
right,
So you can always buy yourself time, but sometimes it's better just to rip that Band-Aid off.
right, and that makes sense. Not limping along, but just going ahead, because 6 months from now you're going to be spending more money than what you did,
and 100%.
today, right?
You know, just with the cost of goods and how everything's going up, buying now will definitely save you money in the future.
Yeah. So talk to me real quick. I know that there was an issue, you said, with the bladders and the refrigerant tank.
Our 454B has a pressure disc in it. So originally at the beginning of the year or towards the early of the year, the pressure discs, they couldn't manufacture them, right? So basically we're being held up by bottles, and that's why, you know, the shipments are delayed, so on and so forth. Now that apparently, and again, this is all like through the grapevine. So, you know, I'm not talking to anyone at Honeywell actually supplying, but, you know, it's all through grapevine stuff, talking to sales reps and things like that. But now it's actually short. Now we're actually short on one of the refrigerants that mix with 454B, which I believe is 1234YZ, if I'm not mistaken. So we actually have a shortage on that refrigerant now. So that's why the limitations of that. We have,
and so that specific refrigerant makes up a percentage
of the 454B. It's 32 and that refrigerant mixed together. It's a mixed refrigerant, just like 410A was. And that's why we have that such shortage now.
and is that due to tariffs, supply chain?
Just supply chain
Really?
issues.
Okay.
I don't know specifically if it's directly reflected from tariffs, but it's definitely a supply chain issue. And then like the biggest thing is too, they're even telling some manufacturers that, you know, they have pallets ordered that they're just not going to get the pallets. Point blank, period. And, you know, their pallets are expected to show up in, you know, August, October, November of this year, which is way past the time that we really need them.
So we've got someone that wants to rip the Band-Aid off, right? They're like, I know my system's limping along. I've put $300-400 every 6 months into this thing, and I'm just sick of it. But I really don't have the money in my pocket right now to drop 15 grand on a new system. What would you suggest?
Financing. We have so many different financing options that can help. You know, my favorite financing plan that we offer right now is our no. It's up to 12 months, no payment, no interest. So basically that first year, you're golden. You don't have to make a payment. There's no interest accumulating on it. Of course, if you want to make a payment during that time, you're more than welcome to.
Yeah.
You can buy it. You can pay it off in that year. So basically you got 1 year to pay it off for same as cash. But yeah, it just gives you that brand new system, the enjoyment, the comfort right now. And then you, of course, got to pay that back later. And it's up to 120 months.
Oh, wow.
And then,
so you can get a payment super low.
Definitely.
But that first year, like today, you need a new system. It's going to be 100 degrees next week.
All I need you to do is apply. We get we talk about the options. We apply for the amount. You get approved. I'll put it on. I'll put the system. I'll put the equipment in for you, and then you won't have to make your payment for up to 12 months, and then you're golden.
And so that goes for plumbing, remodeling, HVAC. Like you can get financing for anything.
Yeah, anything we offer, anything over. We can offer financing that for anything over $1,000.
Okay.
So
where does that cap at? I mean,
doesn't cap. It's just a minimum. So we can do
Okay.
2, 3, 4 systems in your house because some homes are very large here. We can do 2 water heaters
That could
all
be 50
combined.
grand if it needed.
50
Yeah.
grand. We can do 100 grand, however much you need. As long as you do the paperwork and everything gets approved from our finance company, we can do whatever you need in your home.
That's good to go.
There's things that people are like, I need a new HVAC system, but I also need a new water heater. Cool. Let's just pair them up. Let's get them all done in one Band-Aid rip, and we'll get you taken care of.
Yeah.
Get you a nice 10-year part and labor warranty, so you're not worrying about anything, and you're taken care of in your home.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. And now I know that we've partnered with real estate agents locally. And people flipping houses have utilized this in the past, the no interest, no payments. I mean, if you've got 12 months and you're remodeling a house and flipping it, you don't have to come out of pocket that 15 grand. You can use that towards carpet, tile, roof.
And then when you close that house, you just go pay
it
that
off.
term off,
Yeah.
same as cash.
Yeah, that makes sense. So,
So definitely a big benefit to have some type of financing.
all right. Well, thanks, man, for joining me today and talking about tariffs and everything that comes around it. I think the biggest takeaway that I get from it is the prices keep going up because of insert reason now, COVID, tariff, whatever.
Supply
But
chain issues, you name it.
they don't
it's
tend
there.
to go down.
Nope.
so hey, the tariffs got lifted. Yeah, but the price is not coming down 8%. So
No, it's not. It's going to keep that. The manufacturer can sell it.
Yeah.
We're limited to them.
Right.
They make the price, we go with the price.
no, and I also like the fact that if it's a 3%, you're not going to just pass that 3% along to the customer. That's something that we can find a way to
Of course,
fit in.
I can overcome that. It's when it gets to like that 10% point
Right,
is where it's
right.
like, we really I gotta figure this out just
Right.
because I can't.
And that might equate to a 7% increase because there's that 3% little cushion there.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, we want to be competitive. We want to give our customer the most value that they can get. And so that doesn't mean that because they put a 10% on us, we're going to put a 10% on our customer.
No, 100%.
Yeah. So, well, thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Guys, as always, if you want to find us, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram. You can search To The T Plumbing, Heating, and Air of Austin on the internet. Just want to give a shout out to Pod Style Studios. We appreciate you guys here today, and come see us next month.